Hi, welcome back to the Keiser Report. Time now to go to London and talk with Marco Byrne of goldcore.com. Mark, welcome back to the Keiser Report.
Hi, Max. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Marco Byrne, if central banks and governments were colluding with private banks to rig LIBOR rates, does it make sense to you that they were also rigging precious metals prices?
Well, it's quite possible, and there's been a lot of circumstantial evidence over the years. But I think given the facts that have come out about the LIBOR scandal, there is going to be more scrutiny on the precious metal side of things. It's interesting today, Bart Chilton of the CFTC, who has basically they've been involved, the CFTC, in a 4-year investigation into allegations of manipulation in the silver market. And he basically came out today saying that they hope to release the findings and results of their investigation in September. I think that was said probably a year or 2 years ago. It's incredible it's gone on 4 years, and even the fact that it's taken 4 years suggests that there may be something going on there. So there is definitely, I suppose, a motivation why banks and indeed central banks might want the precious metals of gold and silver lower.
Well, the entire amount of silver that's pulled out of the ground through mining during the course of a year is roughly 700 million ounces. And occasionally, on some days, we see 700 million ounces of silver traded over a 1 or 2 day period. So clearly, there is no precedent for this in the history of markets why that should be so. So it's a 100% guarantee that there's fraud going on. Everyone knows it. It's the worst kept secret in the world of markets. But when you have the LIBOR rigging and you're essentially manipulating the price of money, whether you're directly manipulating gold or silver or not doesn't make any difference, because you're manipulating the price of interest rates. You're manipulating the price of money itself, which is, in this case, the dollar, which is how commodities, all commodities in the world are priced. You know, going back to the revolution in Cairo, because of the spike in food prices are priced in dollars, and dollars tied to LIBOR, and LIBOR is manipulated. So those revolutionaries in Cairo should be on Wall Street demanding, a regime change from J.P. Morgan, right?
Yeah, well, I think you might be onto something there, all right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head in terms of LIBOR is the global benchmark for interest rates, and obviously it's the benchmark key figure that has such a massive ramification for every single individual, every single family, every single company, corporation and bank in the world, so for the entire financial system, the whole economic system. So increasingly these monetary metals, which gold and to a lesser extent silver, people are beginning to diversify into them, and there is therefore a motivation why central banks would want to keep the prices capped or fixed.
There seems to be a lack of deterrent, Marco Byrne. There's no real punishment for the crimes being perpetrated by manipulators. And when you make the contrast to what we see coming down in the wake of the Penn State scandal. Penn State, of course, involved in this massive pedophilia scandal. They've now been charged, and there's penalties, tens of millions of dollars penalty. That the whole football program is being restructured. They're being stripped of their titles. It's quite an impressive list of penalties for Penn State due to the sexual predators that were allowed to work there. But isn't there an equivalency in terms of the morality when you have, let's call them financial rapists, like a Jamie Dimon or a Lloyd Blankfein? Shouldn't there be some deterrent for financial rape too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is. I mean, obviously they're very different things, but the ramifications for the financial crimes that have taken place are absolutely huge, and we're seeing, families around the world are being financially devastated by it, and unfortunately we're only in the early to middle stage of this, and we're going to see a hell of a lot more families and companies and even corporations massively impacted by what's gone on. And as you said, that there doesn't seem to be any punishment that takes place, which it just means that the problems we've had in recent years, they potentially can get worse in the coming years, because it seems like nothing has been done. And it seems that the banks have, in effect, captured both the regulatory and the political processes. And I mean, it's clearly seen when you see who the major campaign donators to, even President Obama on the Democratic side, on both on the Republican side and the Democratic side, huge donations going in there, and you would have to wonder whether that is resulting in I suppose a lack of punishment on these banks, And I think that's a fundamental question that has to be asked. One of the root causes of this problem, which we identified years ago, and many people have identified, because it's glaringly obvious, but it's amazing how often it's not talked about, is, and I know you've talked about many occasions, is Glass-Steagall, and being able to divide out the speculative side of banks and the prop desks of banks from their plain vanilla deposit taking. And until that's done, I mean, that's just one of the many things that needs to be done. Obviously, a massive deleveraging of the financial system, a downsizing of the financial system, because we're massively overbanked and over-financialised, and it's strangling the real economy in economies all over the world. Until these are done, then there can be no solution to this crisis.
Well, what you're talking about there, about Glass-Steagall, for example, that would be a microeconomic solution by separating at the point of price discovery the negative influences of predators. But all we hear from policymakers around the world in the G20 nations are macroeconomic solutions about monetary solutions, about fiscal solutions, this top-down approach, this hierarchical approach, which doesn't seem to be getting anywhere. Yeah. What about a more fundamental microeconomic approach, looking at the way that the market actually works on a structural level and understand that on the day-to-day price discovery mechanism is corrupted, that until that's fixed, you're going to have this incredible giveaway of wealth to the top 0.1% at the expense of everybody else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head once again. And it's funny, the focus is continuously on the monetary solution. But ironically, the monetary solution is actually compounding problems. And you know, it's the cliche that we've used continuously about kicking the can down the road, but that is all they're doing, and they're compounding the issues, and they're piling debt upon debt upon debt, and that debt is compounding on an annual basis. It can never be paid back. So, and then they talk about bailouts, and obviously with Spain today, and Italy today, and even Greece is back on the radar again today, and they're talking about more bailouts for Spain, a sovereign bailout. But the bottom line is they're not bailing out Spain or the Spanish people. They're bailing out the Spanish banks, who have been loaned to irresponsibly by other European banks, and which has created the risk of contagion. So what needs to happen is there needs to be massive debt write-downs, and needs to shut down a lot of these banks rather than burdening the taxpayers who are already massively indebted and massively overburdened. And it's hard to know how you know that this austerity measures they will unfortunately compound problems. But it's amazing how the likes of Paul Krugman and the Keynesians, they're not even Keynesians, they're actually I would call them uber Keynesians, are even a different school of economics altogether, because Keynes would never have advocated what they advocate in terms of, I suppose, the bailing out of the banks that's happened in recent years, you know. And I think that's a fundamental issue that needs to be addressed, that all the measures that have been taken in recent years, they haven't solved a thing, and potentially they're going to make things a hell of a lot worse in terms of the devaluation of currencies, which is going to be seen in the coming years. Yeah,
no, they're not Keynesians. They're financial terrorists.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
You mentioned the solution that comes up all the time, adding debt to more debt. Again, that's a macroeconomic solution. The debt that they're adding to the debt, the way it's priced, is that it's tied to LIBOR. Oh, LIBOR is manipulated. So therefore, the entire solution is based on a faulty assumption that your LIBOR rate is somehow derived from market machinations, which it's not. It's derived from fraud. So the entire mountain of financialization is fraudulent. Now, many argue against the notion that there could ever be manipulation of gold and silver. Of course, you hear this old saw that for every buyer there's a seller. But what about the wash trades that now are rampant, and not only just the old-fashioned wash trades that I used to do when I was on Wall Street, but new computer-aided high-frequency wash trades. And of course, wash trades are simultaneously buys and sells of a security at a price either below or above the market to create a, again, false price discovery, a macroeconomic nightmare. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, again, it's another, I suppose, opportunity for manipulation, because it's a very opaque market. There's a huge lack of transparency, and the whole high-frequency trading and algorithm trading thing. I mean, it's a further symptom of how the global financial system has been turned into a casino in recent years, and there doesn't seem to be any impetus to resolve or to stop it being a casino, you know, and to make it a proper market whereby prices are discovered, and then consumers and companies benefit from that, and ultimately the citizens of nations benefit from that. So yeah, it is basically another opportunity for manipulation, can be seen clearly in that side of marketplace. This whole thing has been, anybody who spoke about conspiracy in recent years was automatically dismissed as a conspiracy theorist. But I think given what's happened to LIBOR, people to realise that these banks are often conspiring. That's the nature of conspiracy. So when a number of people get together in secret and for motives of profit or other motives, and they have been conspiring against the interests of both their shareholders and us, the wider public. So that but it's gone from the realms of the conspiracy theory, and what's seen with LIBOR, it's gone into the mainstream, and even the gold story this week got picked up by the Independent in London. It's beginning to get picked up on by a lot of the mainstream media, who are realising that there may be questions there to be asked, and it's going to be interesting what happens in the coming days and weeks.
Right. Speaking of conspirators, in Ireland, the government has installed 2 former HSBC money launderers for the Mexican drug cartels. They put them in charge of cleaning up your financial system. Do you have good hope on that?
No, I don't have much good hope on that. It's quite ironic what's happened there. But yeah, I try to focus on the big picture globally, and what's oftentimes people can get caught up in I suppose the minutiae of these things and not see the wood from the trees. And the big picture is, as I said before, there has been regulatory capture, but ultimately, yeah, that's going to lead to more instability, more volatility in capital markets, and I believe to currency devaluations, and potentially we're on the verge of either a very, very serious recession in the US and globally, and quite probably a depression. So that scenario, rather than focusing on the minutiae of HSBC and regulators and all the rest, I would suggest that people and families need to be, I suppose, buying physical gold and silver and putting that away for the rainy day, because unfortunately, while we'll enjoy the summer sun here for the Olympics in London today, there is a rainy day coming very soon.
All right, Marco Byrne, we're out of time. Thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you, Max.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert.